Let's turn from issues more to the campaign side of things now.
Okay.
Where do you disagree with your opponent? I know you talked a little bit about health care and how your plan is
Right.
different, but on other issues, where do you disagree with the Attorney General?
Oh, how much time do we have? Sorry, Robbie. I have personal regard for the Attorney General because I worked for his predecessor, and he continued to keep me on in his employ. I was a special prosecutor for the Attorney General for a couple of years before my election to Congress. But we have some pretty deep differences on a number of areas, whether they're social issues, whether they're the idea that, again, his plan is to put people back on the old Medicaid system where we weren't just getting very good care either, not to mention the fact that it would put our state on some precarious fiscal ground. There are things, for instance, I mean, he's been very critical of some of the reforms like on workers' compensation, which I think was necessary for small business. Litigation reform, civil justice reform. There are some ethics matters. I mean, I think integrity in government, even as we're talking about all these pocketbook issues, to me, one of the most important things is integrity in government. Because if you don't have confidence in our ability to find solutions, then we have failed. And I think, unfortunately, over the past many years, when you get immersed in this culture, especially in Jefferson City for 20 plus years, as the Attorney General has, that you turned a blind eye to the kids in Kansas City. And you don't want to take on the teachers' unions if that's what it's going to take to make sure our kids are getting that education. Or suddenly you've got, you're investigating a company through the official roles, but then you're also soliciting them for campaign contributions. I mean, that's just an appearance of impropriety that needs to stop. And one of the things we proposed is an inspector general, for instance, that's not appointed by the governor, but someone that 12 or 13 states have an inspector general to look at all aspects of our state government, making sure that our money is being spent as it should be, to look at waste, to look at fraud and corruption, and then maybe refer those corruption cases to someone who will prosecute them. Right now, our state auditor does a good job, for instance, in routine audits, or occasionally would be asked to audit. The St. Louis Police Board is one of those most recent where a request has been made, and Ms. Monty is doing that. But often those recommendations from the auditor fall on deaf ears. I mean, if nobody picks up that mantle, then they're just going to be recommendations. And so to me, the transparency in government, and this is probably where the biggest wedge is between the Attorney General and me, and that is just this strong accountability that I insist. I mean, part of that may be that I've not been part of the Jefferson City culture. I mean, people say, well, you're the Washington guy. Well, but I haven't fought the fights in Jeff City. I don't have battle scars. I don't have grudges. I don't have scores to settle. But I see where we need to be much more accountable. Missourians want their government to be not just responsive, but responsible. And part of that responsibility means, transparency and accountability. For instance, the books are going to be open. The Missouri Accountability Portal, which was created under this current administration in Jeff City, is a great way for Missourians to go online and to see how their money is being spent. Well, the Attorney General, there's $3.3 million that is unaccounted for from his budget last year. And, like I said, I probably should. I don't want to be too strident here, but there are a lot of differences on policy. All the business groups in our state have endorsed me, which is a good thing if we're going to try to work our way out of this economic situation. But probably the biggest, deepest divide between the Attorney General and myself is this issue of ethics in government.
All right, to a nicer topic, I guess. How does the way you run your campaign reflect the way you'd run the office of the governor?
Good. On a shoestring budget, you mean? Trying to squeeze out every dollar is one. One of the challenges when you represent a slice of the state, like a congressional district, people get to know you pretty well. They may not agree with you, but they understand that I'm from Columbia and my family, and that I'm a conservative, but we work together. And so areas where I'm known, like the Boot Heel where I grew up, people know me. Here in this 9th Congressional District, certainly here in Columbia, the challenge for me has been, though, where I'm not known, and that has been, for instance, in Southwest Missouri, Kansas City area, Northwest, the western side of the state. So I haven't run my campaign differently. It's just that people here, I don't have to introduce myself to the eastern side of the state, but I'm very much having to, or have been over these months now, introducing myself, similar to telling my story, where I came from, what are my values, what are my principles. And so we have I physically have been spending a lot of time on the western side of the state to talk about these issues too, but to have, maybe give people a sense of who I am. And so as governor, I think that too, there has to be a comfort level, because we have a lot of challenges and people have to trust your judgment. And so where people know me, again, I may not be perfect in the sense that we have disagreements about specific issues, but hopefully people will trust the process I go through to hold those positions. My challenge as governor is going to be that people have a sense of who I am, and so they can trust my judgment in these very difficult issues. But again, representing this district, what's been great about it and challenging about it is you cannot be a hardcore partisan or you don't politically survive in this district. And so that is my style of governance, that building consensus, reaching across, and again, bringing folks together to take on the weighty issues of the day. And so the way I have been a legislator is the same way I've run my campaign, which is exactly the same style of governance that I would have as Missouri's next governor.
Is there anything that you'd like to add that I haven't asked you about?
Can't think of it, but we're blessed to live in a state that I mean, again, we have abundant resources, but the strength of our people and the values that we have. I think the next governor of our state, people are looking for someone who shares their values, who has a vision, and who has the political courage to take tough stands. I think excuse me, I've demonstrated that. I mean, the values that I have, the vision on innovative ideas of getting our state and keeping our state moving it forward in a number of these areas, and political courage. Probably the most difficult personal event in Congress was when I was on the ethics committee, excuse me, and there was an allegation of bribery. That one member had bribed another member for a vote, and so I was in charge of the investigation, did not know where it would lead. Well, where it led was to the majority leader of Congress, the House, the second most powerful man. While he had not offered a financial bribe, he did in fact offer a political quid pro quo to another member for a vote, which was, in my mind, a blatant violation of our ethics rules. And again, going back to this integrity of government, it was important, I felt, to publicly call out and censure the majority leader of Congress. And so I did that. He happened to be a Republican, a very powerful Republican named Tom DeLay of Texas. And after that report came out, I know it may not have gotten a lot of attention outside the Washington Beltway. It got a lot of attention inside the Washington Beltway, and because I had the temerity to take on this powerful leader, I was dismissed from the committee, kicked off the committee. But that's okay, because it was important, incredibly important. And so I only mentioned that episode because while, you find out who your friends are, by the way, when you go through an episode like that too. But that's the type of political courage I think Missourians are looking for, to not just take on corruption, but the political courage to take on the special interests and the status quo, and to make sure that that you're fighting as hard as you can for all of our state. And so hopefully in a few days, Missourians will embrace that vision, embrace those values, and recognize the political courage that I offer, and I'd be honored to have your support.